The Indian dilemma is even worse than the Western dilemma. That is, Pakistan is a serious nuclear weapon state. We know that in the past crises, in the three past crises, they could have turned nuclear very quickly. So the Indian diplomats, the Indian strategy is inhibited by Pakistan's leverage in terms of escalation. So I think that my own view is that there's no way out except a normalization and dialogue. I can talk about that in the Q&A. But for the United States, watching Mumbai on television was a turning point, I think, in our attitude towards Pakistan. And we went to the United Nations. We've supported internationalizing this issue, and partly because nationals from 22 different countries were murdered or butchered by the terrorists. It wasn't just the Indians who were killed in large numbers. There were more Indians than anybody else. But there were Brits, there were Americans, Australians, I think one person from Singapore, Japanese. 22 different countries lost people in Mumbai. So that created an international event, much like 9/11, where people from, I think, 40, 50 different countries were killed in 9/11. So I think that's why I call the Lashkar's actions brilliant stupidity. It was a brilliant operation, technically carried out very well, assisted by Indian incompetence. No two ways about that. But it was stupid because even though they got the publicity, the fact that so many foreign countries were affected united the world against them and against Pakistan, or Pakistan's toleration of such groups. I'm just checking my... Oh, that's a countdown. Okay, good. I'm in good shape. Okay. Let me speak briefly about what I expect from the Obama administration. I can say that I think 6 or 7 of my colleagues from Brookings are going to join it. I won't. But it's going to be an interesting experience for them and for us. We're going to have to fill, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 positions at Brookings because my colleagues are going off to join the administration. But given Obama's own background as the first truly universal American president ever, I think he's just a remarkable person, and his background is self-explanatory. And I think given Senator Biden's, Vice President Biden's knowledge about the region, plus I think the expertise that they bring with them in terms of individuals who are likely to join their staffs or likely to fill in the State Department or the National Security Council, I think that they begin with a good understanding of India. I know some Indian commentators have picked up the fact that Obama's never visited India. He was in Pakistan once. I think that's trivial. I think he's a man of such intelligence, broad experience, and I think a broad perspective on the world that he will regard India. I think he will take India seriously. He'll take Pakistan seriously, but perhaps in a different way. And I know Biden, of course, has had a long experience in coming to India, working in India, and dealing with Indian diplomats. So I think that they're likely to continue the military-to-military cooperation, which is very popular in the Pentagon. They're likely to navigate the perils of the nuclear agreement. Even though many of them didn't like the nuclear agreement, they felt that it was better that it be finished under the Bush administration, not a new Obama administration. So I think the nuclear agreement will require a little bit of compromising on both sides, but I don't see any problem. And I think Indian diplomacy is likely to come around to a view which is closer to the American view, of the Obama view, that the world needs to take a new look at nuclear proliferation and global nuclear disarmament. So in the past couple of days, or past couple of weeks, a number of prominent retired Indian officials, including K. Subramaniam, Naresh Chandra, and others, have signed on to agreements which originated in the United States or other countries, calling for the elimination of all nuclear weapons. In fact, what Indians are now doing, Indian government is going to do, I hope, is return to an earlier position developed by Nehru, where the nuclear weapons are seen as a problem, not an asset. Of course, this raises the question of getting rid of the Indian nuclear program and the American, many more American nuclear weapons. But I don't think this is an issue which is going to divide the two countries. There'll be some give and take, but I think that this is negotiable. More importantly, I think that the economic ties will be strengthened. We're all suffering because of the approaching recession, depression, whatever you want to call it. And I think the human ties, the human bridge between the two countries will continue. I have one slight bone to pick on that issue. India ranks #1 in Indian students in America. of the top 20, India is number 1, followed by China. American students in India rank number 20. Way down at the bottom of the list. And I think that India needs to be more receptive and open to American students who want to study in India. And hopefully we'll see that happen in the next few years. More broadly, and I think more critically, I expect the United States and India to work more closely together on issues that transcend bilateral concerns. And I would like to see a concerted U.S.-Indian effort to deal with a whole range of issues. The looming water and environmental crises, not only in South Asia but around the world, AIDS as an issue, and much closer cooperation on terrorism. And I think this is going to happen. My impression is that because in Bombay there was far more intelligence sharing than we had in the past, and this was true of the attack on the Indian embassy in Kabul. So I think that some of the reluctance to share data between the intelligence services will break down and have seen more cooperation in this area. There's going to be a report by the Asia Society in Washington, which has a whole list of these things. There are many areas where the United States and India can work profitably and cooperatively. Science, technology, education. And one of my minor functions is to head a National Academy of Science group that comes to India every 2 years or so to talk with your National Institute of Advanced Science about cooperation in these kinds of issues. These are problems that affect many states, and some of them, such as stamping out terrorism, are direct and vital concern to the United States. Let me stop at this point and to give you time for Q&A. But thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you, discuss with you. Hopefully we'll have some sessions after this and for your patience. And I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cohen. Before we start the Q&A, maybe I'll kick off with a question with your kind permission. You made the point that America has this issue of Afghanistan if it wishes to be a bit more aggressive with Pakistan, though it broadly sympathizes with the Indian view that Pakistan is a hotbed of terrorism. If bowing to public opinion, an Indian government used the concept of hot pursuit and went into the terrorist camps in what we like to call Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, you think it'll be a good step? And two, if we did it anyway, what will be the reaction of the Obama administration to such a step?
Yeah. I can't tell you what the reaction of the Obama people would be. I have no idea. They probably couldn't tell you themselves, because this would depend on they don't know who's going to have these kinds of jobs. They're just now getting around to this level of appointment. I think the assistant secretary.
Because it's an option which is finding overwhelming favor in Indian public opinion.
As an outsider, but who comes to India frequently, and I've lived in India a total of 6 years over a 45-year period, I would be angry if I were in India. I'd be just furious and just totally. I'd want to strike out also. On the other hand, I'd also realize that Pakistan has 80 to 100 nuclear weapons. One of them would destroy any of your major cities. You could destroy Pakistan. You're exactly in the position now that the U.S. and the Soviet Union were in for 30, 40 years. That is, we could destroy each other. It might make us feel good, at least for a little while. But where does it get you? And so the Pakistanis know this. And the book I wrote on the Pakistan Army, published in '85, made the point that I'd been told by Pakistani military officers that once they get the bomb, they could probe India, push India at a lower level without fear of escalation, or that the fear of escalation would inhibit an Indian response. And that's turned out to be true. I don't want to go to the details, but in a sense, the Pakistanis figured this out early. What they didn't realize that if India, being a democracy, would respond very negatively to these kinds of probes. India wouldn't cave in and give up, and certainly not turn over Kashmir, but the public opinion would operate and the politicians would be